everyone. Pull up a chair and get comfy.
Oh, girl, have we got stories to tell you all. The Never Alone podcast is about to begin, and you don't want to miss a minute.
Hi, and welcome back to our podcast, the Never Alone podcast. We're really enjoying it, and each week we feature different guests, and we're excited tonight because we have my co-host back, and she's back from, you had a loss in your family, and we want to let you know that we're so sorry about that, and we were praying for you.
Thank
and
you.
We're so happy to have you back. You look good. And my other guest that I have tonight is someone who's very near and dear to me. And he's very familiar. And if you might notice a little bit of a resemblance between the two of us, this is my younger brother, Lance Fisher, who's 7 years behind me. And growing up, I was practicing motherhood on him. So Lance, I want to welcome you to our podcast. And I'm so excited to have you. And so is Karen. And, the thing that's really special.
Excited to see you.
Yeah, the thing that's really special about this, too, is Karen remembers growing up with Lance as well. We were all in the same neighborhood, as we've talked about in other segments with my other brother, Alan. And we're just, happy to talk about, all kinds of things, For example, I wanted to just kind of give you a little rundown of Lance and my relationship. He's 7 years behind me. And I literally remember when he was born, and I was so happy. And I remember holding him and thinking that he was like a little doll, and I was like feeding him, diapering him, And it was so much fun. And we have remained close, all of our lives. We've been there for each other through the good times and the hard times, and just so many fun times. And now we live on the West Coast, where I live in Washington State. He lives in California, but we're still able to keep in touch. And so, Lance, what do you remember about growing up with me?
No, I just remember really looking up to you. You were always, there as I was a little boy. And we had so much fun together. But the thing that I remember most is needing to do everything that you did, whether it was horseback, whether it was water skiing, whether it was jogging in the basement, to music. You really also introduced me to music. So I was always playing your 45s when you weren't around and just listening to them.
Lance, what is a 45? Can you tell our viewers who don't know what a 45 is?
Sure. 45. It was the little record, that little single hit, that you flip over and you'd get two songs. And they were, I think, $1 back then to be able to.
Do you remember going down a Club's Corner? Wasn't there a record store? It just came to me. Didn't we go to a record store and you could pick them out and we could buy them?
Yeah.
Where was that?
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember it being there. And
Yeah, because back then,
we got our music.
Lance, we had record players, didn't we? And
we had record. I remember we had an 8-track.
That came later.
I remember
that
when
came
Daddy
later.
Yeah.
The progression of music, right?
Later.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But music, nevertheless, was a huge thing during that time period, for sure.
So those are some of the things that helped us to be close, weren't they? I'm recalling how fond I was of you, okay? And how I wanted to be the best person in your life. And I said this in another segment, but I want to repeat it for Lance's sake, okay? I remember it was your birthday. You were going to turn 6. And you had gotten into the G.I. Joe dolls. And back then, the G.I. Joe dolls were really big, okay? And so Mommy took me to the store to buy you a very special gift for your birthday. And I had a certain amount of money I had because I had been given an allowance. And so I'm looking at all the stuff and I'm thinking, wouldn't it be really cool if I could get him the best gift? The G.I. Joe doll, And so I'm looking at it and it was more than I could afford. And so what I did was I didn't steal it, but I changed the price tag so I could get it. And I went and Mommy let me check out by myself, which was a mistake, but whatever. And, I came with it and she looked at the sticker and she was like, wait a minute. There's no way that cost that, And so what she did was, and I said, oh, but I really wanted to give him this. She said, you can, but we're going to take this back to the store and you're going to apologize and you're going to make up the difference with the money. Yeah, she made me and tell them what I did.
I love it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So was it Mars? Did you buy it at Mars? Wasn't that the store called Mars?
I think it was Bradley's.
I don't know. I
leave.
remember the G.I.
Yeah.
Joe doll, though. So how did
Well,
I
I
get
went
the
back
doll?
to the
Did you end up
store
getting it for
and I
me
had to make up the difference. Mommy lent me the money, but I had to pay her back through allowance, you know?
no idea that any of this was going on. I just loved the
And I
doll.
wanted, you know, the best
Private
gift,
punishment.
you know? So that was my
that?
memory of wanting to, impress my youngest brother.
What? Oh,
Yeah, you remember that though, huh? What
that's
do you remember
amazing.
about it?
Yeah, no, I just remember it was an action figure, and yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed it for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it was great.
So the other thing,
He wants to know if it was the best gift. That's what she's
Yes.
saying. Was it the best gift? That's
he doesn't remember.
yes.
Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah. It was the best one.
He's going to make it up.
No, I just it's one of the only toys that I can remember, other than I think there was like a yellow truck
Yeah.
that I had too.
You had a
Funny.
lot of toys.
It was probably I did trains. I remember trains were popular too. A
Oh,
train
yeah.
set.
Yeah.
My dad, we covered the pool
basement.
table
Yeah.
of plywood and set up a whole city train station. It was just so much
I
fun.
remember that.
My
Yeah.
grandson has
Yeah.
something like that
Yeah.
now, you know? Yeah. And it's they still do that. So Lance, I wanted to talk about
too.
another thing where you were talking about how you felt the era between 1969 and 1974 were our best times. Can you describe that to us and what you thought what was so good about it? And, why were we blessed? What was going on?
I just remember our family, right? Together. And then, of course, the
Yeah.
divorce happened, obviously when it got to 1973, but that period was just everything from, our family to the neighborhood and the other neighborhood families and so forth during that time period. It was just probably I couldn't have asked for a better childhood, honestly, early
Yes.
child.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, after the divorce, things had changed.
Yes, I mentioned
drastically.
that.
And yeah, but overall, it was probably one of the most fondest memories I have is living on Richards Ave, and the friendships that to this day that I'm still involved with, right? And what's that? 60 years later, right? Well, 55 years later or so.
Amazing.
Just basically trying to remember as young as I was, remembering what happened. But it was wonderful.
Can you tell us where Richards
wonderful
Ave
just
is, Lance? I
relationship.
don't mean to interrupt you, but for the viewers, they don't know where Richards Ave is.
It's in Sharon, Massachusetts, on the
Yeah.
South Shore of Massachusetts, and a suburban, affluent town that was just it was a wonderful place to grow up.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so do you remember Karen and her being on the street and the different friends and what did we do? I mean, what was some of the things that, shaped our lives, the connections we had,
Well, I remember way back in our backyards at that time, there were the pits, right?
What were the pits?
Sand
What did
pits,
that mean?
Right? The sand pits. So it was like, it was an area that was not developed, and there was a row of trees and a field that sort of the neighborhood or shielded us from what was going on back there. But there were huge mounds of sand, and in the wintertime, go tobogganing.
Yeah.
And
Do you
what is
remember that?
tobogganing? That's another
It's the only
term
time I was
that
allowed
people
there.
don't know what that means today. What does tobogganing mean?
Come on. They do too. Come on.
So a toboggan is a
Yeah.
sled, right?
Yep.
That it was long and shaped, and it was sort of curved at the front, and you could fit multiple people on it.
Yeah.
And we're lucky we're alive, I guess.
I
right?
think so.
Because
It's a long
Yeah,
sled.
yeah.
I like
That's
the
so
long sled.
funny.
And we used to name the toboggans, if you remember.
toboggan.
We used to put our names on the front of it. I remember Alan
Yeah.
put the name Al's Apollo on the front of his,
Oh,
It was
yeah.
fun.
That's funny.
Sharon, do you remember by the Marshall's house, there were abandoned structures, old structures from like I want to say the 1800s.
Are we
or
talking
soon-
down on
or-
the edge of Richards Avenue or down?
on Richards Avenue. So like you're going down
Right.
Richards Avenue, and you have that hill where the Marshalls used to be on the left hand
Yep.
side. Then on the other street beyond, I think it was
Oh, it was down the
right?
gully. Yeah, there was like on the curve. Yeah, Yeah. And do you remember when Vanessa's built their house that they called the news company because they thought they found bones in the underground?
Yeah,
and
I
they were
remember
digging up
that.
the house.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but I do remember that as you say that, because I do remember we would go around the bend. It was like a house had sunken down the hill. And if you,
Yes.
and I can't remember the people's name. They were very nice on the end of right before the curve on the right-hand side, because they gave out full candy bars at Halloween. Yeah, I think that's what I
don't
remember.
Either.
Yeah, but who was on that corner? Because that was an old house up in that corner that was used. That was actually in good shape. But before you went into
The Marshalls?
was
Last
that the
name
Marshalls?
Marshall?
Is that the Marshalls' house that was right there? So how old were their kids?
I don't remember that they even had
They
kids.
They
did.
had
I
They
don't
kids?
did.
think.
They were older.
did.
Or maybe,
Yeah, they had 3 kids.
yeah, no.
I just remember the lilac bushes that were on the
Yeah.
end. There was tons of lilacs. Isn't that funny? The things you remember. I do remember the decrepit house now that you say it. And I don't think I've ever thought of that once since I moved from there. So that's kind of weird.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that
wow.
was. What about the cemetery though? Beyond.
Oh, we used to go down around the corner. Yeah, and go do
Yes.
my mother would tell me to go do what do you call that? You take the wax paper and you use the scrape. But yeah, that was pretty cool and old back there.
You know,
Yeah.
so we,
And you could actually circle
cool.
around from the barn.
yes. So we did. We had a nice neighborhood, but
Mm.
there was one area where there was this property line that you didn't want to cross. Lance, can you describe what you remember
The
about
dreaded
that?
property.
And just,
Did you? Did he have the same?
So-
You had the same experience? Oh,
of course we did.
I did. Well, I'll
Mm.
start it off
no.
with one of the children my age on the street. And I remember the day that his mother brought him over to meet me. And of course, he and I hit it off immediately. And what ended up happening was, as friends and our friendship developed, we found it very difficult for us to be able to play together without the neighbor to my left. If you're looking outside my front door of the house,
I know what you're saying. Yes. Okay.
to our left, and literally, in ordering for us to avoid that neighbor, he would, my friend would go in the front of the house, and I would go in the back of the house. So we would trip him up, and he wouldn't see that we were going to be playing together without him. You know, it was interesting. That was the only house I think on the street that
Yeah.
we had to be weary of.
And we fear.
It was just the
Yeah.
world. Wasn't it just the
Excuse
strangest
me.
scenario in the world?
Well, what was
Yeah.
what was
I
strange
don't
about it, Lance? What
believe
was the problem with them, do you think?
Oh, I got kidnapped a couple of times by the little
Nothing
boy.
big.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing big.
my
I
God.
had to. I
Evan
remember
got
I had to
kidnapped too.
I had to negotiate my way out of being harmed by this little boy, and I was successful at negotiating my way out of it. I don't know how I handled it, but yeah, he never harmed me. But one time he locked me in the back of a station wagon. You know how that
Yeah.
rear seat in the station would fold down. He
Oh
would
my
put me in
gosh.
there,
Yeah.
start up the car, and my mother was screaming and yelling at his mother, and his mother was standing in the door laughing at the
Which
whole
was
thing. And I'm
crazy.
like, he's revving up the engine. He was 6 years old. I was maybe 5, right? It was just amazing and just an awful
You
scenario.
know what I
but,
remember about that, Lance?
yeah,
You know
we,
what I remember about it was Mummy jumping in, opening the door because he was going slow enough, driving down the road, and she opened the door, jumped in, and she said, "Get out of that seat." She was like Wonder Woman.
yeah, I remember saying so while he was in the car too. I remember saying, "Oh, Chrissy." Oh, sorry, I mentioned the name.
My sister,
Sorry.
sister Chrissy. Yeah. There you go. Chrissy.
Yeah,
there you go. That's right. My Chrissy was
Well,
over there. Yeah.
So I said, "Excuse me," and then he came over and opened up the door, and so I said, "Oh, I just wanted a breath of fresh air," and then he slammed the door back down on me. I was being funny in the moment when I was being held captive, right? So,
Nice.
you know,
Humor.
you know,
Oh,
what
gosh.
human out of sticky situations,
Yeah, and it
right?
was a
I
shame.
think you have to kind
It
of.
was a shame because, we had such a nice neighborhood. Most of the children got along, but this particular family, I don't know what was going on with them, but they were terrorizing everyone.
It was unhealthy.
Yeah, it was very unhealthy and
It wasn't a they. It was really not a they, though. It was really just the last of the Mohicans who was pretty well damaged, I think.
terrible.
So,
Terrible.
Yeah.
yeah. That's, I'd be curious to know who else, because you guys know about it. We know about it. I think probably the other two families we talked about today, they knew about it. And crazy that,
Well,
and then
Everybody
but
did.
nobody really discussed it. You would think our parents would have gotten involved.
Well, they
Jeez.
did. They
Right,
did
right,
somewhat.
right.
They
They
tried. They
tried.
did, but they didn't get anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think my dad did go after
Yeah.
them at one point. My brother got hung by the neck on a volleyball net, on a the tether pole. They found him hanging by his snowsuit.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know about
Oh
that.
my God.
Wow,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
it was dangerous.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I
yeah,
know.
but I
Who does
remember.
that at 6 years old? Jeez.
I know. He just unfortunately just died. I can't even to this day.
Yeah, I
I can't even.
know. Can only imagine
But don't,
why. Yeah.
it's like remember like being able to go berry picking, like blueberry
Oh yeah,
picking across Karis's house inside
yeah.
the woods there. Um,
Oh, up in the
I
hill.
just
Oh, I love it.
yeah, the hill. I mean, and thankfully they weren't poisonous because I was eating them. And
Yeah. I just remember there was a path to the Harrises. I don't think you'd remember the Harrises. They left when you were so little. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
Yeah, I
right.
remember
I
them.
Mm.
yeah, but what a great street, what a great, location to grow
It
up
And
was.
Lance,
in.
what
And
about the town? What
and
about
that
the town
era,
in general? Because a lot of people that are viewing are remembering growing up in Sharon, Massachusetts, or a place like Sharon, Massachusetts. Back then we were very fortunate in the 60s and the 70s. It was kind of an interesting time. You had talked about how it was just a magical time, you know, and then things begin to change,
it really,
as life does. And so, what did you remember about growing up in
yeah.
Sharon, Massachusetts in general that you really liked about it?
I thought the school system was incredible. I really had great opportunities. I feel like I learned a lot. Of course, I had to leave, though, which was not so good. We moved to Malden, Massachusetts when I was in the ninth grade. So
You
I went from a
did. Yeah.
school to a junior
Well,
high,
in
Yeah.
ninth
Malden was
grade,
on
and
the
it's
other side of
a
Boston,
little bit different.
correct? The North Shore.
It was an
Yeah.
yes, an inner city suburb
Yeah.
of Boston.
Which
Yeah,
was totally different
yeah.
than Sharon,
Not
right?
like yeah, yeah. It was a very difficult
What was
transition for me
different?
because Sharon
What
was so.
was different about Sharon versus Malden specifically that you found challenging?
So I just think the quality of the school system. I think the quality of the people that
Mhm.
I was interacting with. I was very fortunate to this day still have to be able to walk away from my Malden experience with a longtime friend of mine to this day. But it was hard making that transition, going from a town like Sharon, where it was
And
affluent
more
and
rural maybe at the time, right?
well,
Yeah.
more rural, yeah, and just
Malden feel more inner city.
yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
was more of an inner city, right in the outskirts of Boston. And so with that brings, some different dynamics
Challenges. Yeah.
than experienced at Sharon. So, but no, to this day, I still keep in touch with friends and family, of course, from both
Mhm.
Sharon and Malden. That was the benefit, was that I pulled it off and
Yeah.
did very well, but it was
Yikes. I didn't realize you had that change. I think I just kind of assumed you guys stayed next to I remember the intermediate school and when you were over there, but I guess I forgot. So when you guys moved, we moved too after about a year.
I remember
We
that.
moved way
yeah,
on the outskirts of the town, so we were in the middle of nowhere.
That.
yeah.
But
was
I
nice.
did not realize you grew up in Malden. Well, yeah, it was nice out there, but it was isolated. So
Another thing
I
Yeah.
remember Cottage Street.
Yes.
I loved Cottage
Wonderful.
Street.
in
Yes.
Sharon, yeah.
School, yeah, and then Sharon Junior High was awesome, and then Sharon High School, I loved it. I really
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, Karen and I
Mm.
graduated from there. Yeah. Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
One
know.
of the things that I thought was a perk, at least I thought it was a perk, when you moved over to Malden, was you were more near family, dad's family. We had, our aunt and some cousins, and we were just more near family. We were near our grandmother at the time, so some of those things were positive. And I remember that our mother's mother, our grandmother, who we called Bubby, she was really happy that we were that close by again, so she could see us more often.
Yes.
And, as mommy was helping her,
Yeah, it
You
was
know, she was a lot easier than having to go from one side of Boston to the other, from the South Shore to the North Shore, to go over and help her. Now she's on the same North Shore side, where it made it more accessible for her to get to her because she was aging, you know? And so,
right.
Please excuse this brief interruption for a shameless commercial. Remember, you can get your own copy of Iris's book, Never Alone, at irisfsmith.com.
so you described from 1969 to 1974 being those good years. What do you remember specifically about what was happening in the world at that time? Do you remember anything specific, like what was on television? You know, what was so special about 1969 to 1974 in terms of entertainment and the world around us?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the Brady
Of
Bunch,
course.
right? That was such such an iconic show. There were also, for me, that was also the onset period of when Sesame Street first came
Oh, funny.
into
Okay.
existence.
Can you tell me how
And
to get to
and I
Sesame
remember my
Street?
mother bragging.
Yeah.
That was a song.
No, right? That's yeah, the words of the song. But yeah, no, I mean, remember Sesame Street, there are all sorts of things like Zoom.
Zoom, I
Right?
was
Do you remember?
Thursday. Yes.
I wanted to be one of the Zoom
What was
Zoomers.
that?
You know
Fanny,
what I mean? And
Fanny, what was it? Fanny Doodle, Fanny, what was the one? Fanny what?
remember they did this
Oh
thing?
yeah, it was
Do you
the
remember
arms,
this?
yep, and then
Yeah.
and I had one girl at school was so mean to me. She wouldn't tell me what the whole secret was about Fanny. Fanny something likes kittens but doesn't like cat. It was all about having double consonants in the middle. Like if she loved. Oh, don't remember any of that? That's too funny. And they'd jump out and go, Zoom, I'm Sharon. And they'd
Well,
all,
yeah,
I wanted to be on the show
was-
too.
If you guys could back up and tell us a little bit about what the show was about, because I don't remember that show. And I mean, what was it? Was it
Oh,
kind of like the
funny.
Mickey Mouse Club type thing?
I think so. A little preemptive.
It was produced in Boston.
Yep.
And I guess it was just a group of kids, and they took, different opportunities to be able to introduce learning
And skits. They did skits.
in skip.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was amazing. And then we also had like the electric company that just came out.
And what
Yeah.
was
It's-
that?
Morgan Freeman was on that.
What was,
Did you ever
Yeah, oh,
watch?
wow.
Now,
I-
yeah, watch
I'm
it.
a
It's
little
wild.
older, so what was the electric company about? What was that all about?
That was learning. That was educational.
Again, educational learning, and yeah, I don't really remember the content much, but I just remember seeing the colorful set,
Yeah.
that they performed on. And then of course there was also the electric company, the Newsy Review. Do you remember the Newsy Review?
Yeah, I do remember. So I was
I was
probably
older.
just getting old
I don't
enough
know
that I
any of
just watched
this.
it for a little bit. No, but that's because PBS and Channel 2 started to be was busy. It was kind of
Yes.
busy. Yeah, it was a neat.
Useful.
Yeah, because before that, all we had was Star of the Day. Do you remember that?
Reach goals,
What is it?
right?
Do you remember Star of the Day?
I remember
No.
that
Oh
one.
my
No.
gosh, it was in Boston.
I remember.
Yep,
Star
I
of
knew I
the
had a
Day.
friend she tap danced on.
Yeah.
The Star of the Day, who will it be?
Can I interject for 1 second with Star of
They
the
did
Day?
that in Boston.
You know who was
Sorry.
on?
Yeah.
You know who was on Star of the Day, Lance? Was our cousin Iris. She was on there singing. Yeah.
Oh, really? I don't even recall the show
Yeah.
in any way,
A
shape.
lot of these
That's so
shows.
funny. I had a friend that was there too.
I just wanted to say that back then we had shows like Rex Trailer, Major Mud, Bozo.
Yeah.
We're talking the early 60s. Well,
Mr. Rogers.
Yep. Well, let's say
Yeah.
not Mr. Rogers yet, but back then we were actually able to be on those shows. Me and my sister were
Oh,
on
right.
Rex Trailer, and we got to be on television. We were on Major Mud. We were on Bozo's Big Top. My mother took us to be on those
I didn't know
shows.
they were Boston.
That was a
Oh.
big deal back then for kids to be able to go on these shows and, be able to get
Major
to use them.
Mud.
you know? Yeah. That was the early 60s, though. And then things changed. Like
I didn't know Rex Trailer. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
yeah. And so,
Do you remember
That
him
was-
in the
well-
parade?
yeah.
Yeah, he rode in the
What-
parade. Rex Trailer would ride in the parade. Now that you're saying that,
What parade?
on the 4th of July.
Oh, 4th of July. Okay.
The 4th of July down in Sharon. I remember him being in the parade one time.
Oh, cool. So these are the
Kinda
childhood
weird, huh?
memories that we have. And look at how television has changed so much. Karen and I are watching our grandchildren have new shows that they're, learning from. Karen, can you name a few of the shows that are on today that would sort of be like what we watched when we were younger,
Gosh.
but they're educational? I mean, there's
You,
the one with the cat ears.
oh my gosh, you're so I am not good at these. So my guys are older than yours, that I am not aware of it. Like we had Dora the Explorer or Blue's Clues. I know Bluey's like a big one. Bluey's not educational, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm not a cartoon person, but the humor goes over some of the kids' heads. It's hysterical. So I'm actually at the stage where I want the kids to stop watching YouTube. So you aren't there yet.
Yeah.
So my grandkids are 13, 10, and 8.
Right. Mine is
Yeah.
mine is 6, or going to be 6, and the other one's going to be 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they're
So I always walk into the
You're
room.
at the age where they're watching the current content that's
Yeah,
available now.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
like we
Oh,
did.
yeah. They're educating us. Yeah.
So Lance,
Yeah.
what do you
No, I know. I can't remember that. Wow.
Yeah. So Lance, what do you remember about what was happening in the world? Do you remember anything specific that was happening, like the Vietnam War, for example? And then what was in the movies that was your favorite movie that you remember during that time? What was happening?
Oh my gosh, I remember in 1972, particularly, all the disaster
I
flicks
know.
started coming out, like the Poseidon Adventure, Earthquake, Towering
Yeah.
Inferno, and
The disaster
I
films.
had to see them 100 feet. And there was always someone to take me to the movies over and over again. I think Judy's boyfriend at the time, Chucky, I remember, had a $100
Oh my gosh,
bill.
I remember that name.
Okay, Lance,
That's
who is
crazy.
Yeah,
Judy? The viewers don't know who.
Judy is our eldest sister, and her boyfriend Chucky, who she later married. I remember taking me to see Towering Inferno like 7 times. He was such a trooper, like having to take me multiple times to
How
see.
old were you? Because I wasn't allowed to see it.
Oh, they were. I remember Iris when we learned the Poseidon Adventure. It was Iris that got me hooked on it
So
because
funny.
she was talking about how there's a new movie coming out about a ship that turns over, and she just made it sound so exciting. And I think I was maybe 5
So
at
much
the time,
vibes. Nice.
and I was like, oh, I have to see that. I have to see that.
That's so funny. I love it.
It was about whatever Iris did, I had to do too. So, but then Earthquake came, and then Towering Inferno, and
Oh my gosh.
Well, I wanted to tell you.
Because
Yeah,
I just
a
keep
lot
thinking
of
The Spy Who Loved Me. That's it.
Yeah. The biggest mistake that our older sister made, and she didn't realize it at the time, is she took me to see the movie The Exorcist. And I was only like 12.
you're kidding.
Oh, ever since then.
You're
No.
kidding
And
me.
the thing,
I could see.
yeah,
18.
Yeah, I've never watched it
Mommy,
either. That's so
our
funny.
mother didn't know about it. And so she took me to see it, and I could not sleep with the light off for 3 months. And ever since then, I just want to finish what I'm saying.
So
Ever since
funny.
then, I could not ever see another horror movie the rest of my, it really impacted me terribly. That was a bad movie. I'm sorry. I know that's not, it just was so scary,
I had a similar experience. I was 12. It was the movie Halloween, and I stayed up the entire night thinking
Me
somebody was
too.
going to be at my.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? It's all night. I was watching The Door.
Yep. I ran from the
But
car to
it-
the house. I couldn't wait to get in. It's the only time I've ever watched a horror movie. I have to be
I
honest. The only
ever.
time. Yeah.
Well, me too,
scared me to
Karen.
death.
Same thing with The Exorcist. It
Horrible.
was the only time I ever watched a horror movie. I never would watch it again. And also, I did not like green
Isn't that
pea soup.
crazy?
I did not like green pea soup for the longest time. Do you know why? Lance, Lance, explain why.
Because
I
she
said that.
threw it up.
Well, explain what happened.
That's what they used as a prop for.
Gosh.
It was used as a prop for vomit in the movie. So yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
You do know if you
Unbelievable.
watched it now, though, the filming would be so, I don't want to say ridiculous, but so different than what we see in movies now. You would be able to differentiate
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Like going that,
Or
you know.
produce
It was still pretty
terrifying.
scary. Can you imagine? I
They
know.
they don't make movies like that anymore, I don't
Well, not
think.
only that,
Ooh, it's
I'm sure
crazy. Heads
it's
twisting around.
it
Oh,
was gross. Anyway, but back then they didn't do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff either. And today they do a lot of behind the scenes. And so you're not so, taken
yeah.
back with, okay, is that real or is it not real? Should I be afraid? Is it,
Oh, wow.
but I'll tell you, that movie really impacted me. And ever since then, I cannot watch anything that's
Mm.
even scary at all. I have to watch everything with a happy ending.
Remotely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but that was that. And, but, it was an interesting time to grow up because we had a lot of entertainment. We had a lot of friends. We had family around. And I think that's what helped to mold us and shape us and, kind of affecting our perspectives and, and our later relationships. In closing, is there anything else, Lance, that you'd like to say about the time period that we grew up in that might have impacted and molded and shaped your character for today?
My goodness, the last thing in terms of events, like there was a lot of unrest going on in the world at the time, but I don't remember really paying much attention to that. But the one thing I will share is that when I was at summer camp, I came across a book on my camp counselor's bed, and he should never
Yeah.
have left that there. It was the book
Oh, no.
Helter. And I
Oh.
opened it up, and
Yeah.
I remember this beautiful woman
Mm.
and whatever happened. I want to say I was 12 years old
Oh
at
my
the time, and
gosh.
it really
Yep.
did me so bad that to this day, I'm friends with her
Mhm.
sister,
Oh, wow.
who surviving sister located here in Southern California. But I just remember that that was the most shocking thing that I think I ever experienced, and to this day, I'm so connected to that family and what they went through.
Well,
You
what
know,
was
so
Health?
How
other
profound
than
is that? So bizarre
What was
that you all those years later.
I know. I mean, but I guess that's part of
Oh, I think that's,
God.
yeah, totally. I think that's a God thing. Absolutely.
Where,
Yep.
I was genuinely connected
Yeah.
to
And
the
feel
family.
caring about her. Yeah. Wow.
And you can say her name, Lance. Her name, this book, Helter Skelter, was about the Manson family and Sharon Tate. Yeah, they're public figures, and a lot of
Tate,
people
yes.
know who that is and remember the story. And it was very,
And Deborah, like, who is who I connected with, her last
Aw.
surviving. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
unbelievable. But the thing that really hit home with me was the work that they did following her death for years and years and years before I had no life, because she was so fixated on getting justice for
Yeah.
her sister and making sure that the victims' rights movement was at play. So a lot
that's
of
amazing.
Lance, since you're talking about the
Information
book,
at that time,
describe
yeah.
briefly what that was all about. What happened with them? What was the Manson family? Yeah.
So I can probably tell you more than what was in the book, but very quickly, it was really all about the fact that Charles Manson had a familiarity for that house. And it was back
And who
in the
was he?
day. This is very
Who
interesting.
was Charles
in
Manson?
that
I'm sorry.
Manson, he was a cult leader, right, at that time. And basically he had become involved with Terry Melcher, who was a producer at the time,
Yeah.
who was
Yeah.
Doris Day's son.
Yep.
Hmm.
And so Terry Melcher and Candace Bergen
Oh, wow.
lived in that home,
Hmm.
and they had parties there. Charles Manson and the Manson family had partied there many, many different times, and it was before Sharon had even moved into the home. So the only reason that this even happened was because of over a record deal between Charles Manson and Terry Melcher, and Terry Melcher kind of, didn't treat him fairly. And so Charles Manson ordered these people to go there. He didn't care who was in the house. He just knew that it was going to be somebody that was famous, and wanted them, annihilated. And
Wow.
they
Huh.
did. It was just, the most horrific scenario that ever took place. I mean, of course, Sharon Tate was 8 months pregnant at the time.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Oh,
Child, I mean, you can't, it was just terrible.
A terrible
but,
time. And that was the
she
story of that time, wasn't it? It was like the big story. Yeah.
It really was.
It was. I
scary.
think so.
Because
Yeah.
I remember Iris, Judy,
because that was all going on.
when she was
I'm sorry,
babysitting.
just hang on a second. During that time, I remember a lot of the actors like Frank Sinatra And I think even Paul Newman, they were horrified and they were trying to hide because they were afraid they were going to be
Horrified.
next. I don't know if you know that.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. But yeah, it was just goodness, a strong family prevailed over the years, but notwithstanding the difficulty that they had to do to be able to recover from such. I mean, she was only 26 years old. She was in my opinion, she was like one of the if not the most beautiful woman that
Yeah.
ever walked.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was beautiful from the inside
Yeah.
out, which you
Mm.
didn't find it at that time. I mean, there was
Heart-wrenching.
nobody everybody that knew her, Warren Beatty, Jane Fonda, everybody that knew her, they was not only shocked and afraid that they were next, but they were like, how could it possibly be Sharon? How could she have been the
Yeah.
one?
And why?
It
Yeah.
impacted our society
Wow.
in general. I mean, the whole country was in an uproar over this. And then there was another family that got murdered by them. I can't remember their names, but there was a husband and wife. Yeah,
LaBianca.
that's right.
Yes, he owned a series of supermarkets. And again, in Woodland Hills, some were just random. They just randomly went to the home, no rhyme or reason for this one, and just committed
That's terrible.
atrocities.
Same time period?
No, the next night,
Oh,
2 nights
jeez.
after.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that part.
Next night,
Wow.
and the story goes is that they were listening. The LaBiancas were listening as they were coming back from their vacation on the weekend with their boat. They were listening to the murders, only to find out when they came home and got settled in that Sunday night, would they be next?
That
Unbelievable.
was the
Wow.
story of
That
that,
is
of
crazy.
that time period. And I remember how it impacted. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, everybody was afraid. And even on the East Coast, and that happened on the West Coast, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
on the East
Yeah,
Coast,
it
people
did.
were
It
people
did.
were horrified because of it. See, so these are some of the memories that we remember, some good, some bad, some challenging. But Lance and me and Karen all grew up together during a time where we learned and built a lot of character between the good times and the bad times, right? And we were always there. The most
Yeah.
important thing that I like to emphasize in this podcast, in closing, is that it's so important because life happens. Life happens good, life happens challenging, life happens bad. But if we're there for each other, it lightens the blow, and it makes all the difference to have a really good friend or really close, sibling. I'm really blessed to have two brothers that I'm really close with. Our sister has since passed, and we grieve over the loss of that. But the three of us still have each other. Our parents are gone, but we still have each other. And so, again, in closing, I want to thank you, Lance, for joining us tonight. This has been really special for me. And
Thank you.
Karen, thank you so much for how you add to this every single time that we're together, and what a difference you're making. And it's just, her friendship is just priceless. It really is. And so I want to thank our viewers for tuning in with us tonight. I want to thank you for listening. And if there's anything that you have, learned from us or gained, we'd love to hear from you in the comments section. So if you could like and share and comment, we would be so blessed. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Nice to see you.
Wow, that was awesome, wasn't it?
I know those stories were really something.
Hey, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time when we share more stories from Iris's book, Never Alone.
Order your copy of Never Alone at irisfsmith.com today.